You're listening to a podcast by the Perennial Leader Project. What does it mean to be human? Do we actually have better and worse sides of our nature? On March 4th, 1861, Abraham Lincoln ended his inaugural address with this plea, quote, "I am loath to close. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained it, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union, when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature." End quote. In this episode of In Search of Wisdom, we're exploring what it means to appeal to the better angels of our nature, as Lincoln put it. If we do have better and worse, or wise and unwise sides of our nature, how can we learn to live that out and learn to connect with and even love those we disagree with? In 1860, Lincoln was elected the 16th President of the United States. Following the election, the South was enraged and responded with plans to leave the Union before he took office in March 1861. Lincoln's call to the better angels of our nature was an attempt to reach the heart of the country. The historian and author Doris Kearns explains in Team of Rivals that Lincoln's political genius revealed his extraordinary ability to form friendships with men who had previously opposed him, to repair injured feelings that, left untended, might have escalated into permanent hostility. By choosing a cabinet of rivals, Lincoln built a team with diverse and opposing views that would be pivotal in the healing of the country's divide. It was one of those opposing views that helped draft the final line of his famous inaugural address that we know so well today. It's interesting to contemplate where one begins to cultivate this good within us, or to lead a life that's driven by the good, the better angels of our nature. As discussed in The Wisdom of Dignity, my conversation with Dr. Donna Hicks, dignity helps to answer several important questions. Dr. Hicks writes, "Dignity not only explains an aspect of what it means to be human, but also is a hallmark of our shared humanity. Everyone wants to be treated in a way that shows they matter. What does this common desire to be valued tell us about the human experience? How does an awareness of dignity influence our ability to lead people so that they recognize their own value and worth as well as the dignity of others? Our universal yearning for dignity drives our species and defines us as human beings. It's our highest common denominator," writes Dr. Hicks. Yet, we know so little about it. It's hard for people to articulate exactly what it is. Similarly, my conversation with Dr. Dilip Jesti, the author of Wiser, revealed that no single component of wisdom or becoming wiser is more essential than pro-social behavior, doing things that benefit others or society as a whole. They're driven by traits like empathy, compassion, and altruism. Dr. Jesti suggests, quote, "Happiness is a good goal. It typically accompanies becoming wiser, but wisdom is more about acquiring a deeper understanding of meaning in life, of being able to see how and where you fit into the grander scheme of things, and how you can be a better person for yourself and others. End quote. Strangely, as humans, we can overlook some of the most basic questions. However, it's important to remember that our answers to questions like, what does it mean to be human, shape our actions in daily life. Dr. Hicks revealed that she generally opens her talks on dignity with a quote from the American author and futurist John Naisbitt. Quote, "The most exciting breakthroughs of the 21st century will not occur because of technology, but because of an expanding concept of what it means to be human." End quote. Toward the end of her book, Leading with Dignity, she tells the story of being asked to share her spiritual development and how it has affected her conflict resolution practice. Dr. Hicks responded, "I explained that I had recently had a profound personal insight. After 25 years of working in the field of international conflict, it wasn't conflict I was interested in. What I really cared about was love. It has taken me a while to figure that out. At its core, conflict is created in the absence of love. And if we want to bring an end to violence and suffering in the world, we need to get better at loving. At the heart of dignity," she says, "is love." What if being human is rooted in learning how to love and connect with one another, even and maybe especially those that we disagree with? As Lincoln put it, to realize that we are not enemies, but friends. Some of you that are subscribers to my daily newsletter, Perennial Meditations, on Substack, might remember a post titled, "The Answer to Every Question." It's something I heard the writer and Jesuit priest Greg Boyle say on a podcast a couple of years ago. He suggested that compassion is the answer to every question. And it got me thinking. For those of you that are not familiar with Father Boyle, he's the founder of Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles, which has been in operation for over 3 decades now. And he spends his days at Homeboy Industries accompanying ex-gang members as they rebuild their lives. The organization started all sorts of businesses because they couldn't help some of these ex-gang members get employment, so they had to create businesses, things like a bakery and all sorts of different things, and they helped them get employment and rebuild their lives, as I said. And I think you might be surprised to find out that Father Boyle is onto something. We've discussed many times here on the podcast the connection between wisdom and love, or compassion and wisdom. It's no mistake that philosophical and spiritual traditions universally have compassion as a central component. For example, Albert Einstein wrote that a human being is part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures. It connects very closely with other topics we've talked about, whether it's cosmopolitanism, Heracles circles, those concentric circles that keep expanding to include everyone. But it's worth taking a moment to define our terms, not just for this conversation, but for yourself. We've talked so often about clarity, knowing what these words mean, living the questions, whatever it may be. So take a moment, reflect. How would you define compassion in daily life? Where do you place compassion within your principles or values? Compassion asks us to go where it hurts, enters the places of pain, and share in brokenness, fear, confusion, and anguish, according to the writer and theologian Henry Nouwen. He says compassion requires us to be weak with the weak, vulnerable with the vulnerable, and powerless with the powerless. Compassion means complete immersion into the condition of being human. Similarly, in my conversation with Massimo Pigliucci, author of A Field Guide to the Happy Life and many others, we discussed anger and forgiveness. Pigliucci told a story about when the Dalai Lama was asked if someone could go back in time and kill Adolf Hitler, should they? The Dalai Lama responded, "Yes, but don't be angry." In other words, have compassion. It's probably an understatement to say it's challenging to think about compassion as the answer to every question. It's even maybe more challenging to ask, how does one cultivate compassion? We're wise to start with our views and beliefs. Figures like Socrates, Jesus, and many others stress that no one knowingly does evil. It's simply a lack of wisdom. I'll say that one more time because it's such an important point to get. No one knowingly does evil. It's simply a lack of wisdom. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius put it this way, quote, "As Plato said, every soul is deprived of truth against its will. The same holds true for justice, self-control, goodwill to others, and every similar virtue. It's essential to constantly keep this in your mind, for it will make you more gentle to all." End quote. These are the types of passages that Marcus Aurelius is writing to himself. It would make you more gentle to all. It connects with Lincoln's words, this call to the better angels of our nature. You could say it's like the wiser parts of ourselves. Every moment is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to choose. We've talked about that many times. To choose the better angels of our nature or the worst. The psychologist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl famously said, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." I'll leave you with this question. How would an attitude of compassion change how you see yourself, how you see others, and the world around you? Thank you for listening to another episode of the In Search of Wisdom podcast. I hope you found something useful for daily life. If so, I encourage you to put what you heard into practice. If you're interested in more tools for the art of living, consider subscribing to Perennial Meditations on Substack. By becoming a member, you'll help support the project and gain access to our podcasts, meditations, and courses. Until next time, be wise and be well.